What realities does the Philippines face today? The truth of the matter is that our country is still stuck in various inequalities, and there is no way for our nation to progress unless we address them. Hello and welcome back to Gurong Vlogger ng Kuwait's channel. Please do hit like and subscribe before we proceed.
Sobra na! Tama na!
Makasaysayan.
His deliberate act of excluding substantial assets from his sworn evidence subpoena.
Of Corona's bank documents.
Order.
Bank documents, even for his reported dollar account with BS Bank.
On December 12, 2011, 188 out of 285 members of the House Representatives signed an impeachment complaint against Chief Justice Renata Corona. He was impeached because he did not declare 183 million pesos in his SALN, Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net. Where this is the declaration of assets and liabilities in the SALN, it ensures that public officials do not accept bribes or are not prone to corruption. Chief Justice Corona's non-declaration of assets close to 200 million pesos hinted at suspicion regarding the source of these funds, that these may be considered ill-gotten wealth. Before the impeachment, here's what happened. During the Gloria Macapagal Arroyo presidency, CJ Corona served for a short time as a presidential spokesman until he was plucked out and later appointed as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at a closed term of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. In the year 2010, Benigno Aquino III was swept to power. Corona became the nasty target to remove him. On December 6, 2011, at the National Criminal Justice Summit at the Manila Hotel, Aquino said in a speech that Corona is beholden to Arroyo. Aquino questioned the court's granting of a temporary restraining order, lifting the watchlist order of the Department of Justice against Gloria Macapagal. Heated argument of Benigno Noynoy Aquino against Renato Corona, the impeachment carried on. The senators who impeached Corona stated that the law should apply to all. One can interpret the event as a victory of corruption, while the others interpret the event as a political move by the Aquino administration to take the obstruction, blocking them from the prosecuting former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Be that this may a political exercise that show the checks and balances of the Philippine government are alive and well, and that is no one above the law. After CJ Corona was filed for guilty, others interpret this event as a victory over corruption, while others think deeply that this is a political move from the Aquino administration to block the prosecuting former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. And I also asked my mom whether which one is true, and she also interpreted the same thing, that this may be a movement coming from the Aquino administration. As a matter of fact, by the end of the impeachment of Chief Justice Renato Corona, in the end result, there are 20 who wants to convict and there are 3 who wants to acquit. If you're going to ask what were the cases that were filed against him, there's a photo here showing all of the cases. I could not mention it because there are a lot. And right now, if you're going to ask me, where is Chief Justice Renato Corona on the present day? Unfortunately, he died due to a heart attack on April 29, 2016. So another fact here is that when he was impeached in the Supreme Court, he actually had a medication already, which is diabetes. Fast forward to 2016, he died in the age of 67 years old. Now let me ask this question. How does the impeachment of Renata Corona has affected people's perception of the Supreme Court? According to GMA News, who published the segment Investigative Documentaries on May 31, 2012, it contains the judgment and outlook of most of the people living in the Philippines. A barber named Sonny Pascual claims that the truth was emerged, whether he was found guilty or he was hiding something.
Ang katotohanan kung siya ba ay may kasalanan o may tinatago ba siya?
In the Philippines, this incident became an eye-opener to everyone, whether the Philippine government is alive or alert.
So, to connect Renato Corona's case for this module, the poem Justice by Ralph Semino Galan will explore the concept of justice and how it is applied in the Philippine society. Okay, so I will be reading to you the poem stanza by stanza and explaining each stanza so you could be on board with me and see why does this poem relate to Renato Corona's case. So let us start. Justice by Ralph Semino Galan. These are the accoutrements of her office, the blindfold symbolizing impartiality, a golden pair of scales measuring validity. Okay, so in this first stanza, the third line mentions a golden pair of scales measuring validity, which symbolizes as the emblem of evaluating and weighing the testimony with the equality for both the parties. So, how does this relate to Renato Corona's case, you may ask? Well, in the first stanza, the poem line 2 states the blindfold symbolizing impartiality, which simply means that the blindfold has been a powerful symbol in divination and mythology since the 15th century. It can represent resistance to clarity or limited views. The icon of the blindfold symbolizes the dichotomy of the conscious and the unconscious. In the case of Chief Renato Corona, the impeached was voted by the Philippines senators because Renato Corona did not declare the 183 million pesos in the SALN, like what Sachi said a while ago. This was a public documentation required for all government officials, and how Desla Flores, a court interpreter, was fired after she failed to declare a market stall in her SALN. The law should apply to law. Basically, Renato Corona's position does not matter, and no one else's does either, because the law treats everyone equally, no matter what their position or opinions or how they stand in society. Of evidence given, both pro and con, the double-edged sword that pierces through, the thick fabric of lies, thoughts feather. Okay, so the double-edged sword that is mentioned in the fifth line of this poem resembles the warrior who breaks the walls of lies to show the truth beyond it, whether it is a pro or a con testimony. In stanza 2, line 6, Thoth's feather was mentioned. Now, who is Thoth? Thoth was an ancient Egyptian deity. He was the god of writing, wisdom, and judgment. The feather is a tool of his trade and therefore a written testimony. Thoth's connection to justice would be his feather, which is the feather of truth, the tool of Ma as goddess of wisdom and truth, who would weigh the feather against the heart of a deceased person in order to determine the justice of the afterlife. So, again, how does this stanza or this poem relate to Renato Corona's case? Well, like the case with Renato Corona, it was a political exercise that showed that the check and balance in the Philippine government is alive and well, and that no one is above the law. Of truth, which ultimately determines whether the defendant's life is worth saving, in J. Elizalde Navarro's oil painting title. So, the poet here is trying to tell us if the defendant, or in this case, Renato Corona's life is worth saving, whether they should give him a second chance with his actions. But would this be the Philippine justice that we strive for? So, how does this relate to Renato Corona's case? This stanza mentioned J. Elizalde Navarro's oil painting, which relates to Renato Corona's case because it was mentioned there that the Roman goddess Justitia that slowly fades into thin air, and that means that the justice is already gone. Is this the Philippines' justice? The figures of the Roman goddess Justitia slowly fades into thin air swallowed by pigments. Justice is merely a word, nothing more and nothing less. This stanza questions the true meaning of the word by distrusting or doubting it because of uncertainty. Well, the right and wrong are like cards because they are easy to manipulate. If you have money, you can easily manipulate many situations regarding justice. The Lady Justice was mentioned because it symbolizes justice. Justice states that even though you are rich or have a ton of money, it is not an excuse for you to underestimate the poor. Whether you are rich or poor, the treatment should be fair. Cloudy as doubts in my uncertain country, where right and wrong are cards that can be shuffled like a pile of money bills. This stanza also kind of explains what I was saying a while ago, but for further explanation for this poem, it is evaluating or analyzing the testimony of the accused with fairness and distinguishing the truth and the lies by assorting or classifying it. So the poet attracts a clear confrontation between the various companies. Another example would be that the poet suggests that the judicial system in the Philippines is incorrect, that there is injustice and unjust there. He described the Philippines as my uncertain country because it will not know what will happen or will therefore take place in the decision or in the process of the contracting authority, because justice in the Philippines is easy to manipulate. So it is difficult to trust them. Thus, greed is the conducting factor to the corruption of our nation. Thus, articles of impeachment filed against him pertaining to his failure to disclose to the public his statement of assessed liabilities and net worth. This now connects to the impeachment because of how he now must face the consequences of his actions, and thus justice is served. And lastly, even the land's chief magistrate is not immune from culpability, found guilty. He has to face the music of derision. This stanza is a judgment given by the judge, which means that it is simply facing or accepting the cruel and contemptuous reality of the world of imprisonment. Now, in the last stanza, it mentions the sentence, face the music of derision. In other words, justice. The Chief Justice must face music of derision because it is the result of the crime he committed. He was mocked not only for his crimes, but also for getting caught. Okay, so now that I have discussed the poem with you guys and showed you how does the poem connect to the impeachment of Renato Corona, do you think the poem reflects about how people feel about the justice system in the Philippines? Well, I am here to tell you that the poem does not reflect how the people feel of the justice system in the Philippines. Even though that case happened with Renato Corona was a victory, it isn't always as simple as that in the Philippines. Others interpret the events as a political move by the Aquino administration to take away the obstruction blocking them from prosecuting former President Gloria Arroyo. Well, that is all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for watching.